Hi guys! So we're gonna have fun in today's class. Welcome back to DressYourFaceLive.com. I know that a lot of you have been requesting a class like this, so I'm actually really excited to do this class with you. I will let my model introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Ariana.
And what was really cool was I was just gonna do this class on myself, but I'm like, wait, I just did a class on myself and I don't wanna bore you guys with my face all the time. And her mom got chosen for one of my casting calls. I have a separate little side project that I'm doing where I was looking for someone in a very specific age group. So her mom got chosen and I was like, are you available also? Maybe we could just have a day of glam together. So she was like, yes, let's do this. So here she is. And if Mama wants to come and say hi, you guys can take a look at Mama's really pretty makeup.
Hi.
Very natural, sophisticated, all that good stuff. Thank you, Mama. So today's class is super cool because it is how to fix makeup mistakes. And I am a full-time teacher. You guys know I teach you guys, and I also teach my DYF Academy students in downtown LA. And one of the biggest things that makes someone want to come see me in person is that I can actually show them how to fix their mistakes. Online, you know, when you're doing your makeup on your clients or on yourself, I'm not there to tell you, oh, this is how you'll fix that mistake instead of having to start all over. So I really wanted to make sure I dedicate an entire class to fixing mistakes since I'm not holding your hand like I am in DYF Academy. So some of the students' mistakes that even I've made in the past in my career, and sometimes, you know, we're not robots, we're human. We still make mistakes on set and, you know, with brides and stuff like that. So, you know, it's just one of those things where over time you figure out ways to fix certain things without having to start all over with the whole process. So I'll just list a few examples for you so you know what to expect in this class. One example is when you're doing your mascara and, you know, you blink or something happens and it gets on the bottom, like the little scratch marks from your mascara spoolie get down here, or if you accidentally ding your nose or ding your cheek or something, you know, how do you fix that without messing up the rest of your makeup? Let's say if you're like me where we do our face first and then you're doing eyes, you know, how are you supposed to clean up without ruining the rest of your makeup? So, you know, that's one example that I'm going to be showing you today. Another thing is, you know, especially since we're doing face first always, you know, eyeshadow fallout. What about that? What if you don't have a tissue to hold up your eyeshadow fallout? What if a bunch of your eyeshadow fell on your concealer and you're not sure how to clean it without ruining everything? So I'll show you how to clean eyeshadow fallout without ruining everything. And I've shown you that in class several times, but I want to make sure that in this class, you guys are very clear and I'm very specific about it. So that's another thing. Another example of a makeup mistake could be unblended contour. What if you thought everything was fine and then after you're done with your client and you step back and you're starting to take pictures, you're noticing, oh, there's a line and I already set her face with powder, now what? So there's, you know, little cheat sheets for that too. And then what else? What else are we gonna do today? Ooh, dark eyebrows, for example. This happens in class all the time. You know, when I'm working with students that, you know, especially when they're working on a model for the first time, and you're not used to their eyebrow and you just start going and all of a sudden the beginnings look too dark and the whole eyebrow ends up looking super, super black. How do you fix it without having to start all over with that eyebrow? So that's another thing that we're gonna go over today. So if you guys have any questions about makeup mistakes or anything like that, go ahead and go on my latest post on Instagram, which is the flyer. And by the way, if you guys are watching this later on as a rerun, the flyer will probably not be up anymore onto my Instagram, but I will try to make something else that you can ask your questions on for next time. But this post right here, how to fix makeup mistakes, I don't know if you guys can see that. I'm sure you guys can. How to fix makeup mistakes. So this post right here on Instagram that I just posted a few minutes ago, you can ask your questions there. And then after class, I'll go through and make sure that we did touch on all the things that you have been asking about, okay? So questions go on that post. So let's go ahead and get started. This is gonna be really weird for me because I'm gonna have to make mistakes on you. pretty much throughout this entire thing. Also, I'm going to be extra safe and look crazy and wear this mask because I think I came down with a cold and I'm not trying to get anyone sick. So while I was working on Mama, I had the mask on. She was taking pictures and I was like, yeah, you can tell everyone that, you know, my makeup artist is so serious. She's like a surgeon. She always wears a mask. So that's my little excuse for today. Hopefully you guys can still hear me loud and clear while I'm with the mask on. And if there's any issues, please do let us know via the comments on my latest post on Instagram. So now that I am suited up to be a surgeon, we are ready for surgery. Literally, we're ready. So we're gonna zoom in on my beautiful model so we can just kind of start messing up everything. Who would have thought this would be the class that you're volunteering for, right? Forget the glam, it's all about messing up today. So I'm just gonna start doing random things and messing up on purpose, and I'm gonna show you how I fix them. So right now all she has on is foundation and powder under her eyes, but I did not put powder everywhere else exactly. I mean, kind of, but not much. So this is just a base, basically. But I did definitely set a lot under her eyes, which I'll show you now. I basically just used NC25 powder and set under her eyes just so that, you know, the concealer isn't moving around throughout today's process. And plus, I want you guys to get a very clear idea of what happens when you do have enough powder on. And you'll realize the reason why I do face first and the reason why I use so much powder is because it literally does help when you are doing different things on the face. So first thing that we're gonna talk about is eyeshadow fallout. So I'm gonna begin doing her eyeshadow. And we are going to start off with just a little bit of base. You know, this part isn't the class part. This is just me putting something on her so that we can actually get started on the mess up. So this is just the eyeshadow base, right? And we're just going to have it all over. This is MAC Paint Pot in Soft Ochre. Okay, and we'll do the other side as well just to make sure our grill is even. And I'm just going to do a very basic eyeshadow on her to demonstrate our first issue. Okay, so for the eyeshadow, we're going to use a lovely blending brush. And I'm going to take a nice dark shade. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be very, very dark. And it's gonna fall out. Yay. So she's gonna look down to the floor basically, and I'm just going to do what a lot of people do that create the fallout. So number one, what if I just started sweeping? And you're blending and you're sweeping. And a bunch of that went all up in here. A bunch of it went all up in here. Gosh, I almost feel like I don't know how to do fallout. I'm just gonna do it on purpose. Close your eyes.
You're too good.
This is just insane. I'm like, it's not exactly falling out. Okay, there we go. I see a little dust. I'm not sure if you see any dust particles, but we shall cover her whole eye as if it's a smoky eye, and we swept and we went a little nuts. How do you do fallout? There we go. I'm just gonna go nuts on your eye. I'm really sorry that I'm jabbing you. Okay, so do you see the fallout? I know this is like really intense and horrible right now, but
I like it.
Let's see. It's grungy. It's grungy. So let's say you try to do a smoky eye and this is what's going on. First of all, the first mistake was sweeping. You don't want to sweep because check that out. Check that out. All these little bits of eyeshadow that got on her are because of the sweeping. If instead, here's the right way. If instead we started the contact with the brush and then started rolling or just windshield wiping across her crease and then filling up the lid, sliding rather than sweeping, we actually have a lot more control and absolutely no fallout. And then you can always blend with your fingertips if blending is your issue. So a lot of people sweep because they feel like it's gonna blend better, but what happens is stuff goes in places where you have no control over. So always, instead of sweeping, make sure that your brush, once you make contact with your eye or with your client's eye, that you do not remove contact until almost nothing is left on your brush. So once you deposit all the color onto your brush, then you can just let go and nothing falls out and you're actually building color really nicely. So this is tip number 1. Tip number 2 is do not oversaturate your brush with product. So let's say on this good eye, I'm only putting product onto the tip of the brush. You can see that it's not a major amount of product, and we're just putting it right into the crease right here. And you're noticing I'm not sweeping, I'm just sliding. The brush never leaves her skin and everything looks good and there's no fallout. But let's say I oversaturated my brush. And what I mean by that is when you swirl into an eyeshadow, I will show you right now. When you swirl, oh, where am I? There we go. When you're swirling into an eyeshadow like this, you're oversaturating. Look at all that product. And if I tap it, that still does not get rid of enough product. There's too much product on this brush. And imagine those of you who may put your whole brush in product. That's too much and it's gonna get everywhere. Imagine, even if I tap it off and I put it on, it's just too much product. And I'd rather have you guys build slowly than putting on too much at once and then it getting everywhere and then you have to sit there and blend forever. So let's say this already happened, okay? How are you supposed to fix it? With a clean brush. So the best way to fix an eyeshadow issue, in my opinion, is to grab a clean brush. So I'm going to go in with a clean brush and literally start picking up product off of her, the areas that I want to blend more. So, or here's another idea. Let me clean this other brush. Have you guys ever seen the toothbrush brush that I always use? This one is really dense and that would actually clean off a little bit more. So let me just give this a little spray clean so you guys can see what I'm talking about here. So I just cleaned a little bit with Cinema Secrets. This is the Cinema Secrets brush cleaner right here. It's so easy because it dries immediately, so you don't have to wait before you actually use it on someone. So it's dry now. And I'm literally just picking up the areas that I want gone. And do you see how it literally erased it? So instead of sitting here and blending with the same eyeshadow brush that you used before, that's gonna add and add and add and add more color. So instead of doing that, use a clean brush and wipe off the parts that you don't want. Literally wiping it off. And once this clean brush gets dirty with all the stuff you wiped off, clean it again before you continue. Otherwise, you're basically just redepositing all the stuff that you took off. So I'm cleaning it again. And now I can go in and do a little bit more blending. Go ahead and look up to the ceiling and I can start removing the smudges underneath. Now here's what I do with actual fallout that's down here. Let's say I got a ton of fallout. I want to do it in a way where you can actually see the fallout. So let me grab a little bit more and okay. So I got some fallout on her eye. Instead of going in and wiping off the fallout part, especially when you still see the particles sitting on top of her skin, as soon as this happens, grab a fan brush or grab a very flimsy, some other kind of brush, and literally flick it off. When you flick it off, wipe it on your hand or on a tissue and flick again. Wipe off, flick again, and keep doing that until you've gotten rid of all of the particles of dust that fell under her eye. If you instead went in like this, you would have been smearing all those particles of dust under her eye, and it will get all up in there and it will look like a really bad dark circle. And that's very hard to clean without having to actually wipe it off. So instead, this is your preventative measures. If you get eyeshadow down here, flick it off with a very flimsy brush. Make sure you're not flicking over and over again without wiping off the brush, because what happens, you pick up the particles and then you're basically putting it right back on her. So pick it up, wipe off your brush. Pick it up again, wipe off your brush until all of it is cleaned off. If there are still smudges left over, go in with a very clean brush, whether it's this kind of a brush, this is MAC Oval number 3 brush, or this kind of a brush or something, to go in and remove, literally scrape off whatever you don't want. Once you have removed what you don't want, you can go back into your under eye setting powder. In our case, it's NC25, which I love because it covers 2. And you can go back in and tap it around. And now you have a very clean and pretty under eye all over again, and nobody would notice that anything even happened here. Okay? So that's how to fix the eyeshadow blunder. So I'm just gonna go ahead and finish up your eyeshadow at this point. We gonna go crazy. It's crazy how sometimes when you make a mistake and you try to fix it, it gets worse and worse and worse. And then you end up kind of giving up, and maybe you just decide, I'm not going out tonight, or you decide, I'm gonna redo all my makeup. And both are a tragedy. You shouldn't have to redo all your makeup. You should just kind of figure out ways to clean it before it gets too much.
The worst is when you're late and you have to clean it all up.
Ugh, that is the
Redo
worst. That is absolutely the worst. So now you don't have to do that anymore. We figured out a cheat sheet method. So let me just finish up a little bit here. I'm just gonna kind of go in and do a little highlighting here and there, nothing crazy, just for the sake of demonstration. All right, so now let's talk about eyebrows, for example. So I'm going to do an eyebrow look on her on one side, and I'm gonna ruin it. And on the other side, I'm gonna show you how to do it in a way where you're preventing going overboard. So I'm going to use this medium brown Anastasia Beverly Hills Brow Definer, medium brown. And I'm gonna start off, you know, doing my normal thing. And I'm gonna go in and I'm realizing, I think I went too dark, but I still see some skin, so I'm gonna go in and try to finish that off, and then I realize, uh-oh, I went too low there, so now I'm gonna try to redraw her whole brow shape so that it all matches. Oops, I'm gonna try to wipe it off, and then it just gets worse and worse, right? Okay, I've wiped it off, now I need to fix that arch. Uh-oh, I think I'm going too thick. Now what's going on? What have I done? Holy moly, this is like the worst brow in the world. So at this point, how do you fix this brow? In an ideal world, when we have time, I would just say, get a makeup wipe and just wrap it around your finger and wipe off just the brow without touching everything around it. But that's in an ideal world. Not a lot of people think to wrap it around their finger and only scrape off the part that you want to remove. But then what happens? You remove half of her concealer and her contour and highlight around it and all that stuff, and then you have to redo a lot of that. So in a busy world that we live in, when we want to just kind of snap our fingers and fix things, this is what I would do. I would go into the spoolie on the other side of your eyebrow product, and I would literally use the spoolie to scrape product off, just to lighten it up. So I'm rubbing very carefully, and notice how I'm holding it. I'm holding it in the same direction of her brow growth. So I'm not going like this, because that can potentially ruin a whole lot more than what I'm trying to get rid of. So I'm just gonna shaky on the areas that I went way too dark, which is basically her whole brow. So I'm just gonna soften everything up at this point. Just scraping it off. Alrighty. I'm going to use my fingers to just kind of lightly remove whatever got on her skin there. And with a dry tissue, not with a makeup wipe, but with a dry, clean tissue, I'm going to wrap it around my finger. And I'm going to literally scrape off the area that I overdrew. Literally scrape off. Do you see the product now on the tissue? So you're gonna move it over to the clean part of a tissue. You're gonna spread that skin and you're just gonna rub back and forth so you're scraping off that extra product. Any areas that look, whoa, what the hell, scrape it off with a clean tissue, not with a makeup remover, because you will potentially ruin all that eyeshadow and everything around it. Now, to make the eyebrow look nice and fleeky, what are we gonna do? The first thing that we wanna do is to go in and lighten up this beginning portion of the brow. So whatever is left on her concealer brush, I'm gonna go in and try to lighten up the beginnings of her brow right here. Just the beginning part. And it's not using more concealer, it's just using whatever was left in my concealer brush that I used previously on her. Now I'm gonna go in and get more concealer. And the brush that I'm going to use is the 195 brush. It's just like a flat type of concealer brush. I'm just gonna give it a little quick clean here. And I'm going to get inside some concealer for her. And we are going to basically draw around the area of her brow to hide smudges and to make all of our work look very clean and nice. So I'm going to square off that part. And underneath where the brow bone highlight is, I'm going to go very, very light with my application because I don't want to use too much product and get it all over her eyeshadow. So I'm going in and I'm lightly correcting that lower part of her eyebrow, the lower edge. We're going to make it nice and fleeky, nice and sharp. Okay. Now, either with your finger or with another brush, you can smooth and blend the edges of the concealer. And you have a much better looking brow, something a little bit more believable, right?
Mm-hmm. Can't even tell it was
that bad before. Yeah. And then sometimes I even go in and like add a little bit more lightening in this beginning portion, just to make sure that it looks a little more natural. I'm just not a fan of having the beginnings look too dark. And go back to a little bit of this just for final touches. So if I just want to edge it out a little bit, I can, but I'm not going to fill in that area. All right, so now that we have this fixed eyebrow, I'm going to show you on the other side how I prevent going too dark in the first place. So this class isn't just about fixing mistakes, it's also about preventing them. So on the other side, I'll show you how I like to do my brows. First things first, I like to make sure that all the powder from her face application is off of her brow. So I'm going to groom it with the brush first. Okay? Now that it's been groomed, I'm going to go in and very lightly, hair stroke by hair stroke, start filling in her arch and her tail, because those are the areas where technically you can go a little darker. It's not going to look as scary. Sorry if I was covering any of that. Now, I want you guys to pay attention to the way I'm stroking. I was a little harder and longer in these areas, but now that I'm going towards this area, I'm going to lighten my stroke to like a feather light stroke. It's going to be so light and very softly, like I have a feather in my hand or something. I'm just going lighter and lighter and lighter with my application until it almost just disappears. And then you can go in with that spoolie at the other end and make sure all of your strokes blend in really nicely. And you can do a little back and forth until you're really happy with the overall look of the brow. But remember, go very light when you're doing those beginning portions of the brow. If your client says, oh, I can still see my skin here, can you darken it up? Then that's fine, because she's asking for it. That means that's what she's used to, and you're not taking her too far away from her comfort zone. But one of the things that I like to say to that is I can't go too dark because it's going to overpower your makeup, and I want people to see your own radiant beauty shining through and not just see brows when they see you. Usually if you say that to a bride or someone, they're not going to argue with you. They're going to be like, yes, 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 show my beautiful beauty, you know? They're not going to be like, no, you have to do this to my brow. But you can meet somewhere in the middle. So let's say if she was like, can you do a little bit more here? Then, okay, I'll do a little bit more there. So I'm just going to get in there and just darken maybe that bottom edge. So it looks like it's sharper, but I did not go all the way up and make it into like a full-on Sharpie brow. All right, are we good there? Another thing is, you know how sometimes when you wanna go in here and cover the baby hairs and just make the brow thicker, one of the ways you can do that without ruining everything is to actually hold with one finger, hold the brow hairs up like that, and then pencil inside the scalp area only, not from underneath. If you pencil from underneath like this, you're gonna get the pencil all over her highlight. But if you lift the hair up and find the roots of the brow and only pencil in the roots, like that, you won't overly thicken her brow and it will end up looking a lot better. So that is how I prevent brow mistakes. And again, if you get a mistake, no biggie, do the little tissue thing, wrap it around your finger and only scrape off the area that you may have screwed up a little bit. And use the spoolie brush end of your pencil to kind of blend it and make sure everything is okay. And then your final step would be just cleaning up around the edges, making sure with a concealer that everything's looking nice and clean if needed. If needed. Okay, brows are done. So now, it makes sense to talk about eyeliner. Mm-hmm. Ooh, eyeliner.
The hardest part.
That is everyone's nightmare. The nightmare step of all. Let's just brighten that up. Okay, so here we go. Here's the eyeliner. I'm going to try the Inglot gel liner. Okay, this is like the bad boy because Inglot gel liner is so black and dries so fast that if you mess up, it almost feels impossible to clean it off. It's actually very, very, very hard to work with. But the reason why I still work with it is because it's so black and it's so beautiful on camera because there's no gray in it. It's a pure black pigment that this is why my photos come out so sharp and good with the eyeliner because there's absolutely no gray in this. The one at MAC has so much charcoal gray in it that like, it just doesn't look black enough, and I'm into black, 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 black eyeliner. So here we go. I'm gonna go in, I'm going to use Which brush do you guys want me to use? I don't know which brush you guys normally use. I guess the MAC 263 brush. Let me give it a good clean so that you guys can see what it looks like fresh. The MAC 263 brush. It's an angled eyeliner brush, and I do find it a little bit easier to use than the straight pointy ones. That's just my opinion. If you're used to the straight pointy ones, that's fine too. Honestly, whatever you are more comfortable with, that's what I want you to use. I don't want you to get completely out of your comfort zone when it comes to eyeliner, because it's just one of those things. So here is the MAC 263 brush, okay? MAC 263, and here's how I'm going to mess up her eyeliner. First of all, I'm going to get in here and I'm going to take, a good amount of product, whatever, okay? I now have my product. And instead of sharpening the brush like I always do, I'm going to do the mistake of doing this, which ends up looking like a mess on the brush. Do you see my bristles totally separating? Do you see that from the side it doesn't even look as sharp as it should be? Well, that's how I'm going to apply it, because we're going to mess her up. Yay. So she's going to close her eyes, and I'm going to apply it the way I see some students apply it and then mess up. Okay, so please do not do this. This is not how I do eyeliner. So the way that I'm messing it up and the things that I notice when students mess up is a lot of strokes, which is a no-no. I'm doing a lot of strokes. I'm doing a lot of back and forth. I'm going to grab more product. And I'm going to try to get it as straight as possible. Not bad, pretty straight. I'm happy, looking good. Okay, here comes the wing. Okay, so now I'm going to do some things that I see some students do. Okay, this is not how it's done, but I'm going to make my wing, and I'm going to connect it to the eyeliner the way I see it, the way that everyone else does it. And I'm being sarcastic when I say this. I mean, like, in the YouTube videos, how you go like this and then you go like that. So, okay, I did that. Now how am I going to make my line skinny and nice? So I'm going to go in and I'm going to start. Oops. I think I messed up. How am I going to fix that? I'm going to try to wipe it. Okay, I just smeared it. I'm going to just try to ignore it and make it go longer. And now it's like this really long, crazy wing, which actually doesn't even look that bad, but how can I make it match on the bottom? So now I'm going to try to stamp it to get it to match on the bottom. And I'm going to try to wipe off this bottom part. That's not really working. Let me use a makeup wipe. This is what half of you do. I'm going to use a makeup wipe, and I'm going to try to remove only my smudge. And now I just removed some of her concealer. How about if I use my makeup wipe around my finger? And I'm going to do the wing again. And now it's not sticking very well because there's still makeup remover on her. And it can go on and on and on and on and just really get screwed up. Another issue is sometimes students who do amazing first wings go back to make it darker, and then it just gets thicker and thicker and thicker, and you don't have that beautiful line. So here is how I'm going to try to fix this. If this is you, instead of using a full-on makeup wipe directly on your client's skin or on your skin, try doing this little cheating method. Get a small brush or a pointy Q-tip. I'm instead just going to get a small brush. This is a flat, clean eyeliner smudger brush from Morphe, the 432. And instead, I'm grabbing a wipe and I'm dipping the brush in the wipe, just to get a little bit saturation, but not to get wet. Now, since my brush has a little bit of saturation, she's going to look up to the ceiling, and I'm going to start rubbing off the bottom of the eyeliner and wiping it off on a clean tissue until I have rubbed off enough to create a nice skinny line. So I'm just cleaning off the edge of the wing there. I'm going to re-dip into the wipe, and I'm going to start scraping off that lower edge here. And I'm going to try to get this wing as sharp as possible without the use of concealer to clean up, without the use of an actual makeup wipe to clean up. I am simply using a flat brush like this that is dipped in the makeup wipe solution. And it's going to help me because I'm not removing too much. I'm only removing what I really need to remove. And this makes life so much easier this way. And now she has a much sharper wing. You know, it doesn't have to be that thick or that long. If you want it thinner and shorter, just keep removing. And see how I'm holding her skin. I'm not stretching this way and doing it. I'm stretching out so I can really see what I'm doing here and be very controlled with the way I'm removing product on her. So now I'm almost done. And notice I keep wiping off on a tissue between all these strokes because I don't want to get more product back on her. Okay? And that is it. That's how I clean up a wing. But as we see, her eyeliner itself is too thick. It's very thick. It's actually making the eyes look smaller. So I'm going to show you on the other side how I prevent from going too thick with my eyeliner. I hope you guys are learning a lot of tricks so far. I'm assuming you are because this is some cool stuff. So I'm just going to clean up my brush. Oh, here's another big tip. The Inglot gel eyeliner makes your brush very gunky and smashed like that, and it's pretty intense. So in between eyes, if you take a long time, it's going to get hardened and it's going to get gunky. Go ahead and clean it before you know, as soon as you see it get gummy and gunky, clean it so you can start fresh again. Because you really do need a fresh, nice, clean brush in order to do a clean line. So definitely keep your brushes clean. And if it starts to get gunky, just stop what you're doing and clean it. All right, so I'm grabbing fresh product. And instead of going in and going in, I'm going to sharpen my brush like a knife. So I'm going in one side, and then I flip it over to the other side, and I go into that side. So now my brush is saturated, and it's sharp. Check that out. See how sharp it is? It's like a razor blade. Ta-da! So that's going to help us already. Now, go ahead and close your eyes. Instead of going in, I'm going to lift up her eyelid so I can get very close to her lash line. And I'm going to let my bristles stamp across her eyelashes, as close to her eyelashes as I can get. If you're doing this on yourself, this is how it's gonna look. Go ahead and open your eyes, but look down somewhere. And let's say her mirror is down here. Okay, so she's gonna be looking at her mirror down here, and then she can go in and do that. But you have to lift up a little bit on your lid so that you can get a nice thin line. If you don't lift up, the folds of your eye are gonna come down and you're gonna end up putting eyeliner all over the fold. Close your eyes. And if you're doing it on someone else, then this is the way to do it. They're gonna close their eyes and you're just gonna lift up their skin so you can get very close to their eyelash line. And once you make your first real good layer, you're gonna tell your client, go ahead and open, and you're gonna check and see, is that thick enough? If it is, we're good to go. If it's still too thin, I could now do another layer and build on it. I think this is fine. I'm not gonna go thicker than that right now. Let's do the wing and then we can figure that part out. So for the wing, I'm going back and I'm doing my kind of knife sharpening here. And I'm gonna test it to make sure that it looks very sharp, which it does. And now, while her eyes are open, actually, she's gonna be just looking straight at you guys. Actually, I do need you, yeah, never mind. You're gonna look at my chest area. Okay. So perfect. Now her eyes are kind of open, and maybe you should look a little higher. Yeah, that's perfect. So I kind of want her to look straight ahead of herself because I want to see how high or how low to go with her weight. When your eyes are open, there's no question. You know exactly where it's going to end up. So very lightly, I'm just going to make a small mark. Now that that's there, she can close her eyes. And I'm just going to get in there. I stretch her skin. I already made the mark, so I'm not going to lose my spot. And very lightly, I'm going to make my line. She's going to open her eyes, and I'm going to make sure that it's a good angle. Okay, cool. I'm happy. Now, again, sharpen that brush. Make sure it's nice and smooth. If it's starting to get gunky, clean it off and get fresh product. Close again. Now, I'm not going to go all the way to the tip of the eyeliner. I'm going to go a little bit lower than the tip. And I'm going to make sure my bristles align with that line I made. And I'm going to go ahead and attach it. I'm going to connect it to her eyeliner and fill in any gaps. And letting go, she's going to open. And now we have the cutest little flicky wing. That's if someone wants a cute little flicky wing. If you want the cat eye thing, then, you know, go thicker. But always, always, always hold the eyelid up. So close your eyes. I'm holding up the skin here. And I'm going to get in. Let's say if I want it more cat eye. Again, I'm not going all the way to the tip of the wing. I'm going almost to the tip. And I can just go thicker when I'm connecting if I want it that thick. Okay, open. And that just looks a little bit more fleeky, I guess. So that is how I prevent mistakes. I go slow. I take long strokes. I don't take a million small strokes. I don't just, close your eyes. I don't just go and start drawing without holding up the skin. Look, if I held up her skin, I would have seen there's like 2 centimeters of eyeliner there. Isn't that insane? Look at the difference if I'm holding up both sides. Like if you just hold it up from the beginning, you won't go so thick. So that's a big thing. And the other thing is making sure your brush is nice and smooth and sharp and all that good stuff. And then everything else should fall into place. Now I'm just going to go ahead and try to match her up a little bit for the sake of the camera, since I'm sure a lot of you may want to screenshot some of these steps to remember. I don't want her to look crazy, crazy. Although this is going to look crazy, right? Close your eyes. Let's go ahead and match it up. So let's say if I did want to go a little bit more wild with this, go ahead and turn this way. And I'm just going to thicken up your eyeliner. All right. Oh, here's another thing I wanted to show you. Let's say you went too thick with your eyeliner. How are you going to fix it? The same way with that brush if it's not coming off, but I have an even easier way to fix it. Let's say I went too thick on this side and I'm like, oh geez, I don't have time to sit there with a brush and start scraping off little things, and if I do that, I'm going to mess up her eyeshadow. That's where her eyeshadow is. Well, let's say if you were to use a metallic eyeshadow instead of like a matte, right? So if you use your metallic, let me find where the heck is the brush that I was just using? How odd. Pregnancy brain makes me totally misplace so many things. I probably put it back in here. Let's see. I'm going to find that eyeliner brush, but no, it's okay. I'll just use this one. Okay, so here's the linear brush. You can use the eyeliner brush instead. It doesn't matter. I'm going to dip into a metallic shade. So I'm using a metallic goldish kind of a color. Here's a metallic golden. And she's going to close her eyes. I'm going to spread her eyeliner like this. So I'm pushing down on her lash and I'm pulling up on her skin here. And I'm going to go in and I'm literally going to scrape off, not scrape off, I'm going to deposit this goldish color eyeshadow right over that black line. And that will work only if your lid color was that golden color. Do you see what that's doing? It's sticking to the black eyeliner so that it basically just looks like that's where your black liner stopped and your lid color begins. And you may have to do a couple layers for it to actually cover up all that black, but that would be like a cheating way to kind of just go ahead and do it. So let's say you did try to remove some of that black before and it left like a black stain on the eye and it's just not covering up. If you use a metallic eyeshadow to go in and cover up some of that area, then you'll be able to fix it. Of course, ideally, if you see that you're going really thick with the eyeliner, you want to stop. You don't want to continue going thick throughout. You want to stop. And then let's say I noticed I was going too thick right here. I could have stopped right there, not gone all the way, and just use a little bit of eyeshadow to clean that up. And then you can always just use like a liquid liner or the gel again to fix the edges. Go ahead and close your eyes. So I'm just going to use a liquid liner here just to sharpen up the edge of that. And she's going to slightly open a little bit. And that kind of just helps to make it not look like a crazy thick black eyeliner. So that's one option. It's not the best option. This is definitely a cheating option, but it is an option, especially if you do have gold eyeshadow all over anyways, and you just need to fix a small little area. When you're fixing the whole eyeliner, yeah, it looks kind of, it's looking not so clean there, but at least it's a good way to kind of fix things in small areas like I was just saying. So we're going to do one more thing now. I'm going to show you how to fix mascara blenders, and I'm also going to show you how to fix the contour. So mascara blender, I'm going to put on some mascara on her, and guess what? The mascara is going to be waterproof, so it's going to be even worse to clean. Alrighty. So how do you mess up mascara? She's gonna look up, or actually, I'm not even gonna tell her that she can look up. She's just gonna look wherever, and I'm not gonna give her any direction. I'm just gonna be like, I'm gonna go in here now and do your mascara. Oh shit, you just laughed and now it's under here. Crap. Okay, go ahead and look up. Now I can give you direction. And I'm gonna do your mascara. It's kind of getting all over your lower lash line, but that's okay because I kind of wanted to smoke it out anyways. Now you're gonna look down. I'm gonna do your tops. And I'm accidentally doing it so much that it gets on your eyeshadow. So now there's specks on the eyeshadow. On top of that, I'm doing this, and now I'm gonna have you look up again, and there's a possibility that the tips of her lashes may touch the top, which is not happening right now because the mascara already dried, but there could be a little bit. So what if I just kind of did that? Oh shoot, dang, I just ruined the whole look. And I got a little bit on the nose. So how to fix this? Do not rub it off right away. The only time I ever rub it off right away is if it's underneath the lashes right here and I'm doing a smoky eye. In that case, I don't have to sit here and wait forever for it to be cleaned off. I just go in with a brush, any smudging brush, and I just start rubbing it back and forth. So it basically just adds to the smoky eye effect. And then I can just go in and add some eyeshadow to that so that it just kind of looks smoky. In fact, I really don't mind if mascara goes down there if I'm doing a smoky eye because it actually holds the eyeshadow on better and everything just looks, smoother. And I'm just gonna add some color here and have a little fun with that smoky effect at the bottom. So no big deal there, right? We don't really have to do much cleaning. But for the other areas, if you did this, oh crap, that just got it worse. So instead of doing that, if you get a speckle, we're literally gonna have to wait until it fully dries. And the good thing about waiting for it to fully dry is you can literally flick it off with a Q-tip or your nail or a clean brush, like a sharp brush, like that linear one that I used on the top. That will work. And when you flick it off, then you could just redo a little bit of the eyeshadow over there. But if you do this, it's going to dry as a line on your nose or wherever it is, and it's going to be a very, very big hassle. So don't do that. Now, the little bits under here have now dried. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this brush, or you could do a Q-tip. I don't have Q-tips with me right now, so I'm just going to use this brush. And I'm just going to try to scrape it off. So I'm pulling her skin tight, and I'm scraping in the opposite direction that I'm pulling, so that it's literally scooping up the particles, the dried up particles, and getting rid of it. Don't be too rough because this doesn't really feel good to the client. And then, no biggie, I can just go back and add a little bit more of her NC25, the handy dandy NC25, and redo the brightening around her eyes. And now it's, you can't really tell that I got mascara under her eyes right there. So as we wait for this to dry, actually before we do that, let's go ahead and remove her nose thing. So I'm gonna take this linear brush, I'm gonna clean it, and I'm also gonna grab some of this. This is the wet wipe, makeup wipe. So now it has a little bit of wipe on it. I'm just going to scoop off the black, scoop off the black, and with my finger, I'm going to rub the product around it, right over it, so it almost just kind of grabs on. And I don't have to sit here and reapply foundation. I'm just gonna reapply the powder. And that's another reason why I love Studio Fix powder, because it's a powder foundation in one. And now that mark is gone, so we're good. You don't have to use the whole wipe, because if you use the whole wipe, you're gonna get a fat mark of nothing. Just go in and clean only the part that needs to be cleaned. So while this thing is drying, because I don't think it's, oh, it is kind of dry. No, it's not. While that's drying, I'm going to show you the contour situation. Actually, no, before I even do that, we can do one more thing. I can show you how I clean up the eyelid. So I'm going back into the shiny eyeshadow, and she's going to close her eyes. Instead of wiping off the eyelid mascara, I'm going over with that shiny eyeshadow color, and it basically just hides all the particles. So typically, that's usually what I do if I feel like it's so little. If it's a lot of mascara that got on the eyelid, then you can wait to actually scrape it off and then redo the areas that you scraped. Okay. Alrighty. So now, hopefully that little particle has gone. So now I'm just gonna scrape off piece by piece with this dry linear brush. And remember, wipe it off on a tissue or your hand. You could even use your nail to scrape it off. And it just comes off so much easier this way. If it was still wet and I was doing this, it would spread all over the place and literally be a disaster. So right now I'm just scraping just on that little area. I'm not scraping around it or anything. And then once I feel like I can actually just rub the rest off, I can go in, rub the rest off, and then last but not least, go in and fix up that eyebrow highlight if you need to. All right, that looks quite pretty.
It's all gone.
It's all gone. Nobody knew we messed up. So, yeah, you can't tell at all. So I only have 2 more things to show you before we say bye. Wow, this class took a full hour. I didn't think it would. I guess mistakes really do take for forever. So I'm going to show you the contour situation, and I'm going to show you the red lipstick situation. So with the contouring, let's say I have applied it and it's not coming off and it's not blending right and whatnot. So here's the contour, and I'm doing the jawline as well. Okay? And then we blend just like you're supposed to. You guys blend. Very nice. We're blending here. And I noticed that my contour line is super thick, but that's okay because I could just keep blending. And now I feel like my contour completely disappeared. So maybe I add a little bit more. It's a lot of back and forth. So let's say after blending, you see a big splotch of contour right by the mouth. And you've already set everything. So let's go ahead and set it just so we can make this as realistic as possible here. So I'm going to set below with NC40. I'm going to set the actual contour with NC42. And I'm going to set above it with NC25 for her highlight. Okay. So at this point, I'm thinking, looking at it, doesn't look so bad. I think I can totally, do this. This doesn't look horrible. I've seen way worse. I think I can handle this. This might actually look good in pictures, whatever. But let's say I'm done with everything and I'm taking a picture and I realize, this area is a little too dark, but I already set everything. Now what do I do? On top of that, I already set, let's go ahead and set that too. I'm already setting her jawline contour, but now when she turns this way, I see that I didn't blend all the way. So how am I supposed to fix this? One of the things that I do instead of sitting here and wiping down and doing some crazy things, I'm going to start off with my clean finger. I'm going to see if I can just lightly, I'm not rubbing too hard, I'm going to see if I can lightly just remove the surface powder. Just the surface powder. It's not going to show that I'm really removing much, but the surface powder is kind of starting to loosen up. Now, I'm going to try to blend as much as I can the areas that didn't blend. Now, when it comes to the jawline blending, that's okay to press hard because that's the edge of the face. There shouldn't be much makeup there anyways to mess up. So I'm going to go in with my thumb and I'm going to use the heat of my fingers to melt this product into her neck, and I'm going to go down. Once I see that there's no chunks of brown on her, I'm going to go in with a fluffy brush like this. This is the 109 brush, by the way, in case you guys like it. And I'm going to use NC40 or NC25 or something in the middle like that to now set that entire jawline and soften it up. It's already been set, but I went ahead and rubbed that part. That's fine. And now you can see a very smooth kind of a bronze effect there. But what about all of this? So what I would do in this case is instead of sitting here and wiping off anything, one thing you could do is if you see like a major area like here, I don't know if you guys can see it on camera, but there's a big blotch here, and it almost makes it look like there's a dip in her skin, and there's not. So I'm going to use a clean brush to try to remove as much as possible right there. And now I'm going to go in with the NC25, which is the highlight powder that we were using originally for her, and literally just pack it on the areas that got too dark. And you see how that just disappears right away? It's not like I had to sit here and do so much work. It just disappeared. And I can do that in any areas that I got too thick, in any areas that I got too dark. Basically anywhere on the face that I feel looked blotchy or not fully blended. You can go in with Studio Fix powder and literally just blend that area. But make sure that you don't blend only there and then there's a sudden brown here. You want to make sure that when there's almost nothing left on the brush, you're dusting it over so it almost overlaps. And now she has this perfect little fade from brown to highlight.
Wow, that really made it go away.
It did. And then over here, let's say you want it more sharp. Instead of going in with a full-on highlight cream, just go in with the powder and brighten up that lower area. Any areas that are just too dark or too crazy looking, just brighten it up. And then you can always just use your finger on top, very lightly though, without ruining everything underneath, and just soften that up. And it looks so nice when you're doing it in layers like this. Gorgeous. So that's how I usually fix contour. So if you ever feel like, oh my God, I finished the whole thing, how am I gonna go back and fix this jab right there? Just wipe off the surface if you can. If not, no big deal. Just add a little bit of your highlight powder. This highlight is not shiny, it is a matte. When I say highlight powder, I mean the powder that you use to set her highlight, which is the powder that you use under her eyes. So that's how I do it. And it's pretty easy. All right, the last thing I'm going to show you today is the lipstick blender. So let's say we apply a beautiful dark red liquid lipstick and it smears and we're like, oh hell no. Oh, I found that brush originally that I was looking for. And we're like, oh heck no, it got everywhere. What are we going to do? So I'm just going to go in and start applying. I know you guys aren't this messy. I'm not trying to like make fun of anyone, but I'm doing it fast because we're running out of time. So let's say now I've gone too high on one side of the lip and it's lopsided or whatever it is. And instead of me waiting for it to dry to clean it up a little bit, I'm just gonna go in and be like, oh, I'm just gonna wipe that off. And then I'm like, oh no, I just created this weird smudge. Crap, what did I do? Then I'm gonna try to fix the area underneath it. And it ends up, you know, not looking so perfect because there's that huge smudge and everything looks horrible. And so what I would do is instead of going in and smudging and wiping off the areas of a dark lipstick, do not use your finger at all. Go back to that same trick I showed you with a flat liner brush like this, or the Linear from MAC. This is the Linear number, what is this? Linear number 1 from MAC. It's the skinny toothbrush one. Any of these. Dip into a wipe. And I'm gonna have you turn a little bit. I'm going to try to remove as much stain as possible. Now, liquid lipsticks especially will stain. It's not gonna be an easy thing. Okay. I'm just gonna clean up the edges where I went overboard by saturating the brush with the makeup wipe and breaking up a little bit of that product and trying to break up any staining. So we're fixing around the lip. You're gonna turn this way now. I got a little bit messy right there. So we're gonna just try to remove and be as careful as possible. I'm not doing too much rubbing. And please keep in mind, with every stroke I do, I wipe it off because I just don't want it to get everywhere else. I'm going in here, wiping off the edges here. Back to this side. Let's make you look a little bit more normal. And we're wiping off the edges. It's going to create stains, so I'll show you how those are fixed. All right. I think we're done cleaning the edges. Now let's sharpen everything up. So I'm going to go back in with that flat concealer brush. By the way, if you guys like the shape of this brush, it's 195 from MAC, number 195. And I'm going to go in with my concealer palette. And very carefully, I'm going to apply concealer on the edges of the lip where I feel would look best on her. And then I just kind of stamp to fill in above it. And you could use your finger to soften it up, but just make sure there's no lipstick on your finger, otherwise the whole thing is messed up all over again. Same here, I'm going to clean up this outer edge and very carefully cover up the smudging that happened around the edge of her lipstick. Did I just totally cover your view? Maybe I'll turn this way. There we go. As you get close to that lip line, go very slow. You can go a little faster out here if you want to, but I'd rather you just kind of stay really slow and steady. Smooth out the edges. And then with any brush, any small brush, you can reset that area with powder. Just to make sure product isn't just flying around. Okay, so that's how I usually fix those edges, those mistakes. Let's go ahead and fix this other side here. I'm going nice and slow, covering up everything that I feel went way over. Be very controlled with your movements so you can stay very precise. And we clean up the edges. And now we can set, smooth. And then last but not least, if you want to refix the actual lipstick, you have to be very, very precise with the edges. So I'm going to go in and very carefully just reline the very edge of her lips. See the difference? So now that's nice and deep. This one's still a little faded. So I do need to reline with a little bit more liquid lipstick on that edge. But now that we have a sharp edge that we're working with, it's a little easier to follow and easier to not make a mistake. Gorgeous. No one would ever guess that it ended up being such a smudgy mess originally.
It's so sharp and clean.
It is. It looks bomb. All right. So now I'm going to take off my mask because at this point, I am ready to go through your questions and make sure I've already answered everything. And if I haven't answered anything, I can try to explain as much as possible. So we're going to zoom out since we are done with the demonstration portion of class. And I'm just going to take maybe 5 or 10 minutes to answer a few questions here. I hope I covered most of the crazy things, but if I haven't, I'll explain in my Q&A section now. So I'm going to take a seat. You can get up, walk around, enjoy your few minutes of idle time. Thank you so much. That was really fun. I've never done a class like that before. That was kind of intense. Okay, I totally sweated because I was wearing this crazy mask, so excuse me for looking a hot mess. Let me raise the seat a little bit. Okay. Dang, I'm really shiny. All right, go ahead, and if you haven't gotten your questions in, go ahead and do it now so I can go through, and any related questions to this class, I'll go ahead and answer. So, let's see. Okay, if we made someone, this is from Bellamore_MUA. Very good question. I just kind of took a glance at it. I have a few questions if you can kindly answer. If we made someone look too light, how can we bring them back to their color? And that's something I definitely wanted to talk about as well. I couldn't really demonstrate it because she has very fair skin. She doesn't have, oh sorry, I was looking at the wrong camera. She has very, very fair skin. So she didn't have dark circles to begin with for me to correct on camera. But you know, I really wanted to talk about this. So if you make someone, let's say somebody has asked, oh, I want to look lighter, or even if they didn't ask and you accidentally put them in a light color foundation or powder or whatever it is, how do you bring them back to their natural color? Usually what I do is just the easiest thing for me. I grab a very fluffy brush like this. This is from NARS. And, oh no, this is not the NARS one. This is the original version. This is from Japanesque. They're the original makers of this, by the way. This reminds me of the NARS one, but that's because NARS did it after Japanesque did. So Japanesque is the original of these brushes, by the way, in the mainstream. So what I would do is I would dip this into a darker powder, like a bronzer without any shimmer, or a darker contour powder, but not too dark. And then I would just fluff it right on the perimeters of the face. So I would start with the outer portion and then work my way in. I would leave this area lighter, but if that area looks gray, like that's a whole other ball game. If it's light, okay, we can use it as a highlight and it's not so bad, and you just darken up the perimeter so at least the edges of the face look nice and dark compared to compare better with their neck color. But let's say the light areas look too gray. What you want to do is use this. I'll show you right now. You want to use colors like this, the peaches and the oranges, to go over the gray areas. And that's why Anastasia created orange. That's why Anastasia created orange colored powders. And a lot of people were asking me, what's that orange powder for? When are you ever going to use orange powder? And that's exactly what it's for. It's for if you end up, after powdering the face, it ends up looking so gray and ashy, you would use a peach tone or an orange tone to warm up the skin on those gray areas, and all of a sudden it looks healthy and bright and good again. So that's kind of how I bring them back to their regular color. And her other question is, if eyelashes don't stick properly even after gluing them down to the eyes and waiting for 10 minutes, how can we make it stick down properly? I'm assuming you mean they're just not getting stuck. Try a different lash glue or try different lashes. Sometimes lashes that have a very thick band pop back up and they're very hard to work with. So try a different brand that has thinner bands. Ardell has very, very thin bands. A lot of the House of Lashes ones, the single layer lashes have thinner bands. The thicker lashes have thicker bands. So kind of shop around and see what you can do with using thinner bands so that they actually are a little bit more flexible to the eye. And as far as my favorite glue, it's the House of Lashes latex-free glue, and Flutter Lashes also makes a very similar item. So it's a brush-on glue, and so the cool thing about it actually is that it dries much quicker and easier. It gets stickier, and so it actually stays on and doesn't have too much wait time, and then it pops off again. Duo Adhesive is my least favorite lash glue. I don't know how I was using it for so long until I discovered the House of Lashes one. But the Duo Adhesive, I'm so sorry, I cannot stand that one. It runs too much. My clients, I've done it in class before with students that only had that, and I was demonstrating and it would pop right back up and it wouldn't stick, and so that's another thing. And the last thing that I'm gonna mention to you is make sure your client's eye is not watering. If her eyes are watery, no matter how good the glue is, no matter how thin the lash is, it's going to not stick. She has to have dry surface. So wait till her eyes calm down completely. Do the lipstick, do something else so that her eyes get distracted and they calm down a little bit. Have her use a tissue to absorb any excess water, and then repowder the eyes. You can add a little bit of eyeshadow or something in the corner that's too wet so that it can absorb some of the wetness. Make sure your glue is almost dry before sticking it on so that it doesn't have to wait to dry and then all of a sudden the water comes back. So those are just some tips to help with that. Okay, so I already went over all the eyeliner stuff, so I don't have to answer that one. Okay, so last question that she had was about lipstick. Let's say you do the lipstick on your client and then she dislikes the color. How do you remove it without rubbing off everything else? I usually if you're gonna remove the whole lipstick, then I do use a makeup wipe. I wrap it around my finger so that it looks like this. I literally wrap it around my finger and I go in and I tell her, okay, open your mouth a little bit, and then I go in and only wipe the main areas of the lips. If that means leaving the edges, leave the edges. Otherwise, you guys saw how I clean the edges. So worst case scenario, if you need to clean the edges, it's not like a huge deal. It's just gonna add a few minutes to your appointment. Okay, so, so someone's asking about the Inglot 77 liner, how even when they set it, this is from Rung the Color of Love. She's saying that sometimes the eyeliner bleeds onto her lower lash area, even though it's already been set with the black eyeshadow, and I'm confused as to why this is happening. And thank you for your congratulations. Thank you all for your congratulations, by the way, on the little baby on the way. We're very excited. So about your question, what's most likely causing that is oil. So if you have oily eyelids or oily area around your eyes, that's the only thing that's going to break down through such a strong eyeliner and powder as well. So oil is kind of our worst culprit when it comes to that kind of stuff. Try using extra powder around the eye area so that you can absorb any of that extra oil. Try using Fix Plus spray with your eyeliner to wet it a little bit and then apply it and see if that helps at all. Use eyeshadow base underneath everything, even on the lower part, so that nothing really smudges and you're using enough powder over it. So there's just those kind of tips, but usually it's caused because you have an oily area around the eye, and that's what's causing the product to not fully set. And even if you did fully set it and you did the best you can, over time, the oil of your eye can, as you're blinking and moving, can rub the product down here. So that's just the reason why that's happening. Hopefully you won't be having that issue too much if you're doing all the other things. All right. So let's see some other like makeup mess up stuff. So Jaya Tanya is asking about fine lines under the eye area and the concealer creasing. So one of the ways to combat that is to make sure you're using less concealer, not too creamy. The concealer that I like to use is the MAC Pro Longwear. Since you are a member, please do watch the other videos before they expire, because I do talk about concealer in almost every single makeup class, how I only use a thin amount and I keep patting and patting until it's dry, and that prevents too much creasing. And then of course you want to use a lot of powder over it so that it totally does not move and crease throughout the day. And the powder that I use over it is Studio Fix powder. So it's heavy duty concealer with heavy duty powder, but a thin layer of concealer so that it's not too creamy and it doesn't move around too much. A lot of questions about like acne stuff. I do have an acne class that I will try to bring back up for you guys. Let's see any other related questions. How to correct making eyeliner too thick on the eyelid, not the wing. I did show you that in class, so we're good there. Mascara smudging, we did that. Okay, so Miss Kasmani is asking, when you have put an orange-based concealer, like the LA Girl orange one, to cover dark circles, and then you apply MAC foundation over it, it goes an awkward pink color sometimes. Is that because I've tangoed the dark circles? I think there was a typo, so I'm assuming. I'm just going to answer the question, the main question. What I normally do is when I'm doing corrector, I do not put foundation over it, because foundation has more moisture and things like that, and it could make the concealer color smear and change. So what I do is I do the foundation first, and then I do the corrective concealer if I need to, and then I put the regular concealer over it. So that regular concealer, which is full coverage, shouldn't show any of that orange or pink underneath it, and you should be much better. And then of course, when you're using Studio Fix powder over all that, that's another added layer of full coverage product. So nothing, like none of your corrective colors should show underneath it at all when you're doing it that way. Okay, I only have a couple minutes left. Another question, so this is from Dominican makeup artist. How about after you're done with the makeup and you take a picture of your client and her face is too light in general? How do you fix it, especially when your client has to run? So I I guess I already answered that in the first question, which was how do you darken someone that was too light. And I was mentioning I just use that fluffy brush and I add a bunch of bronzer on the edges so that it warms up the face overall. And I've done that several times when things look normal as you're doing it, and then all of a sudden you're done and you see everything and you see a picture and you're like, whoa, it's so white, let's go ahead and warm you up. So I just add a little bit more of that contour powder around. I don't cover up the whole face unless I feel like even under the eyes is too white. Then whatever's left on the brush, I'll go ahead and just lightly dust over the highlighted areas too, just to warm it up a little further. That's usually what I do. If this is an ongoing issue with you where you notice that in person it doesn't look too light, but in pictures it does, it could be the product reflecting your flash too much. So try different products. It could be the base. Sometimes primer base has a lot of light reflection. Sometimes it has SPF and that reflects light. So find out what the culprit is and just don't use that and use something different instead. Okay, so Beauty with Iman is asking, how do you clean glitter flakes off of eyeliner to make the look less messy and more crisp? I would definitely just use a small eyeliner brush, a clean one, and if it's sharp enough, and literally after the glitter is already dry, I would flick off flake by flake if any of it got on the eyeliner. I wouldn't do it when it's still wet because then it's just going to smear and look worse. So wait till everything dries and then just flick off the parts that got on the eyeliner. And a way to prevent that is to make sure you do your eyeliner first and then put the glitter on above the eyeliner. So make sure it doesn't actually touch the eyeliner. So that it doesn't get chunky and there's no glitter going through the eyeliner. And the other thing is, instead of doing the glitter base and then putting glitter over it, I actually mix my loose glitter with the glitter base so it becomes a paste, and then I put it on, and that way it doesn't fall on the eyeliner or on your lashes either. Or just be super easy and use the glitter liners from Urban Decay, which are already pre-mixed, and I just kind of draw it right on. Okay. Sonia Adil is asking, I moisturize my face really well, but by the end of the day, basically her skin is drying and it flakes in the middle of the day. How do I stop that? Of course, it all starts from inside. We have to drink more water for our skin to stay hydrated. There's a lot of vegetables and fruits out there that can help with water retention a little bit better in your skin, and you just do your research, look on Google for those kind of things. But I know water is going to be your best friend. But I know a lot of clients that tell me that if their skin gets really dry and flaky throughout the day, they do carry the mineral spray. MAC has a mineralized spray, which is basically like mineral oil and water mix or something. It's not super bad for you or anything. It just like rehydrates, and you can mist that throughout the day just to kind of keep your skin hydrated. But keep in mind, your makeup may be affected by it, because oil or any type of moisturizing agent being put over powder, for example, is going to change the way your makeup looks and wears throughout the day. Another thing you could do is, if there's just one little patch that keeps getting really dry and oily, one of the things I did actually for a student, we were in class, and one of my students had a model who had this dry patch right here, and it was so hard to work with because we were doing contour and blending it, and it kept patching up, and then we did all this powder to clean it up, and then it got even worse because of all the powder. So what we did was we actually used just like a little dot of the number 28 serum from Hourglass. You can find it at Sephora. Hourglass number 28 serum. I literally just put a little bit on the back of my hand, and I just rubbed it into the back of my hand, and I just touched it on those areas that were flaking, and then with a clean finger, I pressed it in, and I did not rub it or anything. I just pressed it. Literally, her dry spots drank up this like potion, and it didn't look dry anymore. And it literally stayed that good throughout the rest of the class. And my classes are from morning till night, so it was a lifesaver. That's not how this product is used, but we just figured out this thing, because I was like, oh my God, I have to take your pictures for your portfolio. At the end of class, we all take pictures and stuff, and I didn't want her to have bad pictures. So I was like, let me grab this from my kit and see if it works for her, and it just magically worked. So maybe try something like that if you think that may work for you. Let's see. So Keshi_W is asking, how do you fix your falsies if they end up on your eyelid? So if they end up like way up here, how do you fix it? If the glue has already dried, you will literally have to remove it and re-glue it, and try to glue it like literally as close to the eyelash line as possible, even if that means pressing after you've done it, after it's like almost dry, press it with your fingertips to make sure it almost touches with your client's lashes. That's one of the ways that you can try to fix it before it fully dries. But once it's fully dried, you can't move it because you're going to break the bond of the glue, so you might as well just remove it and do it again. I'm going to refresh just to make sure we don't have any more questions. We only have 1 minute left. I think that's everything related to this class. There was a few questions about cakiness, and one of the things I realized was when I use a beauty blender, sometimes after I've already applied everything, and if I still feel like some of the foundation or some of the concealer is cakey, I take a dry beauty blender and just lightly dab over that area to absorb some extra product, some of that excess product, and that usually does help a lot. So try that in case you're one of those that were asking about cakey areas. If you know for a fact that your nose always gets cakey or your under eye always gets cakey, try absorbing some of the product before you set it with powder with the beauty blender, and then set it with less powder. If cakiness is an ongoing issue for you, just use a little bit less powder and see how that works for you. Anyways, this class went way over time. I did not realize how long it was going to go, so I apologize for making you sit here for 2 hours almost. But thank you guys for watching. I had a really, really good time. And I'll see you for the next class. If you ever have questions on what's coming up, always check the homepage on dressyourfacelive.com. We constantly update it. Now that I'm pregnant and I've been getting sick here and there might be some updates, but I would not leave you hanging. I would always let you know on the homepage. If you have any questions about anything, just keep on the tabs on the homepage so you know what's coming up and what to expect. And of course, if you follow me on Snapchat and Instagram, I can give you updates there too in case of any changes. And lastly, if you guys have any requests for upcoming classes, please do let me know via comments, or the easiest way to do it is to even make a post. As long as your pages are public, you can make a post and let me know what you want to learn. By making your post, you could take a picture of today's class or any of the other classes. You could take a picture of your notes, whatever you want to show that you are a member. And even if people are not members, they can still request classes and then join. But hashtag DressYourFaceLive. And when you hashtag DressYourFaceLive, I'll be able to go through that hashtag and see if I have any special requests there. And I do have people monitoring that hashtag once in a while to make sure that we're on top of everything. So just make sure your profiles are public, because if you're private, I won't be able to see anything. Even if you tag me, I won't be able to see it. So anyways, that's how you can reach me. And if you guys have any questions about anything DYFL related, there is a contact section on the bottom of the homepage. You can just press contact. It'll take you to an FAQ page, and on the bottom of the FAQ page is the final contact button where you can actually email my customer service team with any questions you may have. So hopefully that helps you for the future. And if you have anything that you want to request, please do let me know. I love you guys so much, and I'll see you for the next class. Mwah.